you want to succeed managing your former peers, you got to stop treating this like an awkward problem to overcome. After thousands of hours of executive coaching, I've seen this exact transition probably 100 times now. And here's what surprises me. The managers who struggled the most were the ones who saw this as a disadvantage instead of the massive advantage it actually is. Because when you understand that you already have established relationships, you have trust, you have context that external hires spend months building, everything changes. So, in this video, I'll show you the exact framework I use with Fortune 500 leaders to structure your first team meeting, handle the tough conversations, and lead through your team instead of just managing tasks. So, this requires a mindset shift. You already have relationships, you have trust, you know the communication patterns. External hires spend 1 to 2 months building what you have on day one. You already know the team dynamics, you know the stakeholders, the political landscape. What changes? Only one thing: your role. What doesn't change is who you are. So, one client I had was promoted within her very small team of three plus herself. In her case, we had to address how she was going to show up as a manager. In order to get to the advantage mindset that I was talking about, instead of the awkward mindset, I had her create a best manager and worst manager side by side comparison based on her own experience being managed. This helped her get into the shoes of her new direct reports so she could create her own playbook on what she would and wouldn't do from their perspective, which is the only perspective that matters, by the way. Knowing where she stood and what her management style would look like built her confidence going into the first team meeting. So, in her first team meeting, I suggested she level with her team of three. She met them where they were at and asked them what they hoped would be different with her in charge, how she could support them, what changes they wanted to see, and more importantly, what they didn't want to change. This lowered the stress for her, for them, and got them all on the same side to approach the work together. At the same time, she made it clear that she would seek their input, but she would be the decider, as George W. used to say. So here's the reality check, though. Some people will not be pleased, but that's okay. It's manageable. So I want to introduce you to a great framework to guide your first team meeting. It can also be stretched out to several team meetings if you give them time to think about, opportunities and what those might be. But it's really best to do this in a 90-minute meeting as soon as possible. I call it the BOLD framework. So B is before you were promoted, what was the situation? What were the challenges? What did they wish would happen? So, what you're literally doing here is taking them back to the moment before you were promoted and bridging it with them out loud to where you are right now. O is for opportunities. So, what are the opportunities with you at the helm? You want them to tell you why it's great to have you in that role and what it's going to do for the team. L is for likely. What's likely to be achieved? There are things that are out of your control, and I think it's good to identify that early. I mean, you don't want to boil the ocean, right? With you at the helm, what can they possibly achieve? What can you get through the system with their help? What can you accomplish with them in the supporting role? D is for deliverables. So, what exactly are the deliverables at the end of this meeting? What did you all decide? What are the one or two, maybe three things that could actually be achieved and delivered, and who is responsible for what and by when? Now you have an action item and you have your 30, 60, 90-day plan. Boom. So, again, this team meeting can happen right away, and it should. It may need to be carried over several days as they think things through, or give them some of these questions as pre work. But basically, what you're doing is having the team, with your facilitation, come up with your 30, 60, 90-day plan. This way, you know there's buy in. Back to my client's team. After the first meeting, she did it all in one 90-minute meeting. This totally diffused the tension coming from, like, who are you now that you're our manager? Are you going to weaponize what we confided in you back when you were one of us? Are you on the management side of the fence or are we still together in this? So it may sound dramatic, but that's really what they were thinking. Before I continue, if you need help creating your specific bold meeting plan or navigating a tense team dynamic, I'm offering free strategy calls. Just click the link in the description. But that's it. Back to the video. Here's what I want to say about your individual one on ones. So, after the team meeting, meet with everyone one on one. Now, this is a personal career conversation, something that you could not have had with them before. You want to discover what their goals are, what their performance challenges are, and the career path they hope to have. Give special attention to those who also applied for your role, because that could be a little bit tense and a little bit difficult for them, but address it directly. Say something like, I know this might feel awkward, and then, begin with your meeting. So you want to build an alliance, not a power dynamic. And I want you to watch for your own unconscious bias, your favoritism, because even with your best intentions, it's probably going to be there. And handle any resistance you get head on with a conversational approach. Another client of mine was managing a much larger hybrid team post reorg. He had a great relationship with the handful of people he was already managing, and no relationship yet with others that were brought over to him from another two teams in the org. There was one new hire that, in fact, my client interviewed and thought he was too experienced for an IC role and didn't recommend him. This guy came over from the other team, and he was just as qualified as my client was to lead the team, but he hadn't been there long enough. Now, all of a sudden, they were working together, and my client, now his manager, was afraid that this guy would leave. So I advised my client to have a leveling conversation, a one on one, that would acknowledge and convey respect for his direct reports experience. Then he invited his new direct to collaborate on tough challenges, bringing his expertise to the table. So the key was acknowledging the direct's experience, making him a kind of like an invitation only co lead, someone he could deputize to attend certain meetings in his place and lead the team in all kinds of ways. It was a win win. So, next, I want you to lead through others. And this is a big shift. Don't just manage them. So, your job has changed. It's no longer about solving problems, it's about developing problem solvers. Ask questions instead of giving answers. Like, how would you approach this? Even though you already know, delegate their growth and your capacity. So, what I mean by that is delegate the opportunities that will give them growth and will alleviate your bandwidth issues. Let go of being the smartest person in the room. Trial and error is part of this. So, just give yourself permission to fail. Consistency builds authority, not control. Control doesn't build authority, it builds resentment. So be consistent and let go as much as possible, even though at first it will feel awkward. What success looks like is that the team functions without you, and certainly functions without you micromanaging. So that's exactly how to manage your former peers after promotion, by recognizing that you're starting with advantages. You're structuring your first meeting with the bold framework, handling individual conversations directly, and leading through others instead of just managing tasks. Now you have two options. You can take everything I've shown you and try to implement this on your own, figure out how to adapt the bold framework to your specific team dynamics. Or you can click the first link in the description, book a free strategy call with me, and we'll create your personalized plan for that first team meeting, navigate any resistance you're facing, and position you to lead confidently from day one.